Welcome back, everyone, to the HCT Championship Sunday. Now, normally, this is where we're talking about the grand finals. Who's going to take home $60,000? Who's going to be the seasonal champion? But we got ourselves a good old-fashioned tiebreaker tussle to find out who is going to get that world championship spot, because Bunny Hopper and Bloodyface were in the top 4, which means we got to have 16 players somehow.
We got to do the accent when we say tiebreaker tussle. It's tiebreaker tussle. You can't just say tiebreaker tussle, unless maybe you're Soddle and you have no joy. But yeah, no, we are into a very different kind of match than we're used to here, a different kind of setup for these players. Yeah. We have to send 2 of these 3 players to the World Championship. So HCT was already able to defeat Ike. Now if he could defeat Definition, he is qualified. If Definition wins this, he is qualified. If HCT loses, he gets another shot at Ike, and then whichever player takes the second loss ends up being eliminated, and the other goes through to the World Championship.
Yep, and the bans you can see in the deck list, the first thing that we talked about, and also still stands out to me, is no Hunter in Definition's lineup, instead choosing the Odd Warrior, the Hikar Druid, Wall Priest. Definitely a little bit more unusual in terms of how a tournament lineup looks. And then HCT has his mid-range Hunter ban, which is very standard, Malagos Druid, Control Priest, and Odd Rogue. And, you know, I want to ask a question to Firebat, who's actually going to stick with us for this cast. You did such a good job on the pre-show, James. We want to keep you around.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Feels like I got promoted from pre-show to also casting. Sweet.
You got promoted to not even in the studio to on the desk.
Yeah,
that's
right. Sweet.
It's not exactly that's something you probably expected, but it's a pleasant surprise. So, Firebat, when you see this head-to-head, what sticks out to you?
Of course, the no Hunter, like you said, just the complete difference in lineups, one being more defensive and reactive, and then the other one being kind of more all-out aggressive. You got the Odd Rogue and stuff like that. It seems like Definition's lineup should quite naturally counter HCT's lineup, so it's going to be a bit tricky. The one thing that stands out would be the Even Warlock might have a hard time. Even Warlock typically gets preyed upon by super hyper-aggressive decks like the Rogue and over-the-top burst decks like the Priest. So that's going to be the point. If he's able to get that out, though, it's probably going to be smooth sailing for Definition for this series.
All right. Well, you know, if you're right in the sense that when you look at the data, there tends to be a little bit more polarized matchups. Like how does like Even Warlock fare against the aggression from Odd Rogue? But if you average out the percentages, it does come to a 50-50 or very close to 51-49.
Okay.
So it actually comes down to what you were saying, Firebat. Can Definition or HCT get the matchups that they're looking for, or if they don't, can they create an upset that will tilt the percentages in their favor?
Right. And that upset is that Even Warlock. If that gets a win, then you know, you've done it. But if that doesn't get a win, obviously you lose. It's how Conquest works. You need to win with everything.
All right, well, we're going to go to the Wall Priest versus Odd Rogue. Now, Wall Priest is a deck that is very much like Taunt Druid in that you set up an impregnable wall through Master O-Card.
I do want to say something. It's very much unlike Taunt Druid in that you don't have mana ramp, and Definition just kept Master O-Card.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which usually when you're playing Taunt Druid, you'd be like, all right, O-Card in my hand, I'm going to keep this because I can Wild Growth and Nourish to it. Definition is playing against Odd Rogue, a deck that's looking to just beat you up and do as much damage to you as fast as possible, and he kept a 9-drop.
Yeah, well, maybe in his mind, he says that I win. I have to survive 8 turns, and then I win. You know, if you get the Master O-Card, there's no way your opponent butts through that. So maybe in his mind, he's setting a hard clock on how long HCT has to win. The thing is, Odd Rogue is really good at winning before turn 9.
Right, and I absolutely agree with you that, you know, if you do survive Master O-Card, smooth sailing. You want to have that sort of nail in the coffin, but at the same time, you know, if you don't draw the right pieces before that, you know, you're going to be in a really, really bad situation.
He has one of the things that really helps him survive, right? He's got Zilly-X. That's got to be the best survival tool in all of Hearthstone right now.
True.
So he's got that looking on his side, and picking up the Mass Hysteria there is really strong, because that board clear just comes down so early.
It does.
Well, speaking of early, that's a Blood Knight eating the Divine Shield, which is not terribly useful in the matchup, and giving HCT a 6-6 on turn 3.
That's a pretty early 6-6, that's for sure.
Myra's the draw for HCT here, so if he does manage to get much of a board to chip in some damage, that can give him the finishing tools to get over the hump.
Yeah, this Mass Hysteria doesn't seem that effective, though, if there's only going to be a couple of minions with a high attack on it.
Right, and here HCT is giving tremendous respect to Mass Hysteria. He doesn't want to get damage on his 6-6. He wants to trade off the smaller minions, because by doing so, he makes his board much more resilient to that clear.
And so now Definition needs to figure out, how do I set up a good Mass Hysteria regardless of what he plays for next turn? That's the big question, and I don't know if there's an easy answer to it. In my mind, I think you just have to play Northshire Cleric, Power Word Shield, try and put somebody out there, but he's going to go all the way for the Zilliax. This is big because he's losing the ability to coin Master O-Card. But he says, you know what, the pressure of the 6/6 is such, I need to set up this Mass Hysteria to have success, so I have to give up that extra turn.
This also opens up just Eternal Servitude. Oh, dear Lord. I was going to say this opens up Eternal Servitude on the Zilliax to kill the Blood Knight, but Fungal Mancer says, no, sir.
Right, and it puts him in a decent spot against the Mass Hysteria. Of course, things can always go wrong against Mass Hysteria, but you need both minions to go into that 8/5 to shut this down, and it's unlikely for that to happen.
And you're taking 11 on the front end of it, too. So this does mean that there is the Zilliax in the Servitude pool. I think he just has to pull the trigger Mass Hysteria. He does, and if one of these attacks the other, that is
nice.
There it
Gets
is.
it.
Full clear from that Mass Hysteria
That's
through the
huge.
Fungal Mancer.
Yeah, that could have just been the game right there.
Yes.
That felt really satisfying to watch. I'm not gonna
Look
lie.
at a bit of a grin on Definition. Definition has been very stoic.
Oh, yeah.
And letting a little smile creep over his face as Mass Hysteria clears the entire board.
And Ike's probably really happy to see that too. Keep in mind, Ike does not want to play Definition. That's
Right.
part of the reason why he wanted to win the first match so bad, is to guarantee that in the worst case scenario, he has to play HCT again, as opposed to Definition, which has a really strong lineup counter.
Yeah.
And now HCT with the Captain Greenskins able to get a Zilliax with Power Word Shield on it.
And the Diamond Spellstone getting charged up too, so Zilliax will come back again.
Wow. Yeah, he might not even need the Master O card. Zilliax might just be enough to get it done with all these revival effects.
This is sort of the thought process behind, do you keep Master O card?
Right.
It's like, well, you're gonna either win or lose, usually before you get to 9 mana in this matchup, I feel like, which is why the choice of keeping the Master O card was so surprising to me. But HCT does have a bit of life left in him. Does get that Deadly Poison Dagger to get over the Zilliax.
Yeah, but this Mass Hysteria is also really good too.
He does have the Myra's Unstable element, so like HCT's definitely not out of it yet. You can't count him out, especially with 2 Vile Spines in the deck and a bunch of goodies.
And I think maybe that's the thought process behind O-Card. You want to make sure, okay, well, I need to have all my tools to survive to this point, but I also have to close the door. And O-Card does absolutely that.
Yep.
Also worth noting, HCT's deck has 2 Void Rippers, as we just see the first one drawn. So the taunt walls are less reliable than they would be against many other versions, and it is Unstable Element time. Finds second Deadly Poison. He does have Deadly Poison, Vile Spine, and Void Ripper.
Those are good ones.
So there's a lot of tools here to allow him to try to fight for this board, but we will see Spellstone brings back that Zilliax for the 3rd time.
I feel like Zilliax has been way more impactful than the Master O card just from this.
Well, I mean, the Zilliax, that was not in his opening hand. That he drew off the mulligan.
Right.
And now it has allowed him to get to the point that, yes, he does have Master O card. And the Master O card will come down and really shut the door on HCT this next turn.
Yeah, it'll pull out the Witchwood Grizzly #2, the Moshog Enforcer, Tar Creeper, if there's another one in the deck, I believe so. And that and alone is just so much health to chew through. Doesn't matter if you have Vile Spine and a Void Ripper. Definition will just have command of the board.
Yeah,
like, he'll just be ahead.
There's just too many bodies at that point.
Yeah.
And that I think is clearly the thought process behind, okay, well, obviously Master O-Cart seals the game, and fortunately for Definition, he had the tools he needed to get to that point. Largely carried by that Zilliax, I think. The Unity, Precision, and Perfection. 3 times he showed up, so 1 for each.
That's right, the first time he was summoned, it was for Unity.
Yeah, it was first time for Unity, second time for Precision. Now it's Perfection.
Yeah, so HCT's trying to think, how do I win this game? How do I set up a board that's the best case that I can go through? Maybe he doesn't have the O-card. Maybe this is all he's got. How can I set up a really fast lethal here? He's going to save the Vile Spine for something bigger. He's hoping not O-cards coming down. He's hoping one single giant taunt minion that maybe a Lich King comes down, I can Vile Spine through it and actually make progress with these minions I've set up. And just as Kibler's been saying, the door is about to get slammed.
Yeah, slam shut and throw away the key.
Yeah. Or maybe not. He's thinking about it. I like that. I like taking it. We've all been saying clearly he's going to play O-card on 9, but I love, he's got his hands off the mouse. He's going to think about it and try and figure out, all right, is this really the time? Or maybe there's something even better.
I think he's at least considering, oh, do I want to clear this board off? If there's say there's Void Ripper Vilespine here, what happens, right? You want to go through and figure out the permutations of your opponent's possible turn, because obviously it's the most powerful immediate thing, but maybe you need to clear this board with your Mass Hysteria, hope your opponent is low on impactful minions, because obviously a Scalebane plus a buffed minion is going to be about the best board they're going to build, is actually not going to play it. He's going to go find Divine Spirit. Oh.
I'm intrigued.
Interesting.
I'm quite intrigued.
All right, well, he is going for the Mass Hysteria here. He just wants to clear off the board. Say, all right, try again. I'm at 20. You've got nothing.
I mean, was there a combination of cards that could have caused Definition to lose with, like, Leroy Jenkins and Extra Burst?
It would need to be like Void Ripper, right, to get through the, 14 health taunt, and then to get through the Grizzly Bear as well. So the Void Ripper would have to come down, and then Leroy would come down, and it wouldn't be like a lethal on that turn. But maybe it just pushes through enough damage. I mean, the line he's going for seems extremely safe. It doesn't seem very possible for HCT to do much against this. So maybe it's slightly safer, but personally, I disagree with Definition's play. I think, you just play the O card. Maybe I'm not accounting for some minions that could pull out and go wrong. He could get the Northshire Cleric instead of the Tar Creeper. That could go quite wrong for him. But other than that, I think you're always getting a Grizzly Bear, and you're always getting a Moga Shog Enforcer, and I think that's enough that then you use the Shadow Visions plus the Inner Fire to kill your opponent on the following turn.
No, that's totally fair, because you can't Void Ripper, Vilespine, and like Leroy. You have to choose and mix and match some of it.
And there's Void Ripper, Vilespine, and double Southsea is the most damage you can have with that double removal effect.
Yeah, that's fair.
But now he's putting him in a position where, all right, well, I'm going to reload with a weaker board.
Right.
And
it's still going to work out quite well, I think.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, he's just taking the slow route. You are getting more dagger pokes to the face, though, so the scenic route might cost him a little bit there.
He did get to heal over turn, so it's kind of, a little from column A, a little from column B. Psychic Scream here. You're fatiguing, but let's just start this over.
Well, the nice thing about Psychic Scream is that it resets HCT's ability to power load the board.
Yes.
Through Fungal Mancers, and in this case, Fungal Mancer Vilespine is actually fairly scary to go up against.
Yeah, so you definitely, now that we've started walking down this line, you keep going. You scream this board, you heal, they play another board, you scream that board, you heal, and then you O-card, right?
Change his mind.
This is, I am very confused. It feels like we were going one way, then going the other way, then going back. It's like, pick a direction.
There is less damage on this board is the thing.
There is less, but it's like,
the previous board had 9, this has 5.
Won't there be less after the scream, though?
That's true.
Right?
But now,
maybe the name of the game for him is Survival. Because, I mean, that's 3 fatigue damage, so he wins in a couple
That is
turns.
generally the name of the game against Odd Rogue. But yes, and I actually like this Inner Fire here. This plays around the Void Ripper. And this was something that he didn't have access to the previous turn.
Right.
He was unable to Inner Fire on his Bear because he didn't have enough mana. He only had 9. So this sets up his one of his taunts not being vulnerable to that flip.
Yes, this is super safe once again, yeah. So, I mean, like, he's got a lot of different ways to get to victory here, and, he's just picking his favorites, I guess, and maybe it's slightly safer against specific, really weird burst-out scenarios that we're not even thinking of. But he's definitely not dying here. He's going to be able to hold on. Now, if he even screams the board, HCT is going to be left with nothing but a Void Ripper in his hand, and he's drawing 1 card a turn.
Yeah, it's highly likely, too, because he Shadow Visions on 9 mana when he saw that he was holding Master O card. Yeah. So I think there's a high likelihood that HCT's narrowed it down. At this point, he's hoping that Definition made a mistake, which we all know is not necessarily the case here.
The worst case is if you scream and your opponent gets to get the Ogre back out on you.
Yeah, what if you scream and then I guess you could trade in your Master O card. I was like, what if you can't scream and Master O card just like pulls out the Shotgun Enforcer right there?
He just draw Master O card.
He does.
I know, but and then you get the.
He pulls like a Tar Creeper, an SI7, and the Fungal Mancer. You're just like, wait, what? That is actually really funny.
So he knows it's not a Vilespine left, or even if it is, there's no way to combo it. So he knows he's completely safe like this. Fatigue's going to tick for 4 and then for 5, and that should be the game against any card in HCT's hand. Not even Leroy can get through to push the damage. So it's 100% victory by just playing the Lich King and healing there.
Absolutely. Game number 1 in the books. Definition gets one game closer to that World Championship berth. Meanwhile, Yang going to go back to the drawing board. Odd Rogue is slightly unfavored in that matchup, but still closer than you might think. And if that's any indication, we might be in for a quick series, but still too early to tell. So Definition up 1-0, but the series is just getting started. Firebat's going to stay with us on the cast as we get ready for game number 2. Don't go anywhere. More HCT continues right after this.
大家好，我是来自 LF 的月影，我是来自中国。这次我带的所有卡组都是我自己特别擅长的卡组，所以我觉得在这种比赛上应该拿出自己最擅长的东西。我觉得我这套牌是比较万金油的，就是没有说特别烈，也没有说特别好打的，但是可能打基础防战会比较难，所以除了基础防战以外的所有卡组，我觉得都可以。 就是有一套可能蓝龙德或者是激素贼这两套可能会大家会带的比较少，因为这两套牌的话也就只有2位选手，就每个一位带了这两套牌中的一套，但并没有人同时带了这两套。我觉得是有一套元素萨的话，就是这一次可能都没有带。之前我在亚服天梯遇到过，我的中速列打这套元素萨的胜率是0，就是打了3把在。 亚服的前50分段，所以我觉得这套牌是大家都忽视的，应该蛮强。我平常的练习一般都是打天梯，就是大数据有时候会看，但是不会太参考这个，我都是根据自己的理解，然后觉得哪一张卡更适合这个卡组。我的风格以前的话是快攻，然后就是偏快的，但现在的话慢慢的话我就转成中速，可能以后也可能会往控制 比较慢的方面发展，就我觉得一个职业选手应该要全面一点，什么都要会。我觉得最重要的就是心态，如果你的心态不好的话，可能会打出一些不是你该有水平的操作。信心就是在天梯中连胜，虽然可能没有那么有信心，但是你可以调整你的自己的心态。输的比较多，你可以先缓一缓，然后过段时间然后再打，尽量不要被 前面的失利影响到接下来的比赛，就在我每一局的比赛中，我会保持最高的专注，然后打好每一个操作。我希望大家以后继续关注我的比赛，谢谢。
제 배틀 태그는 데피니션이고 한국에서 왔다. 등급전에서 많이 연습을 해서 올 수 있었던 것 같아요.
Definition's just choosing to work out whether he wants to either Sassy deckhand this, whether he wants to glacial shard it, but either way it just removes a nice bounce effect.
그런 것들을 이제 조금 배운 것 같아요. 어떻게 하면 더 좋게 할 수 있을지 여러 가지로 이렇게 계속 생각하면서 했던 것 같아서 일단 상금을 받으면은 뭘 할지 이렇게 크게 생각은 안 해봤지만 제가 평소에 이제 덱을 만들 때 이제 카드가 많이 없어서 하고 싶은 덱을 많이 못할 때가 있는데 이번에 4월 새로운 확장팩을 되게 기대하고 있는데 4월 확장팩도 사서 이제 좀 이런저런 덱 연구도 해보고 싶고 그다음에 또 다른 거는 이제 제가 해외에 나와 보니까 여러 가지로 배울 게 많은 것 같아서 다른 나라도 한번 가보는 해외 여행도 한번 가보고 싶어요. 경계심 같은 건 없고 사실 제가 뭐 이렇게 전문적으로 하스스톤을 하는 선수는 아니었지만 뭔가 재미있게 하다 보니까 어떻게 이 자리까지 왔고 될 수 있는 데까지 가면 좋을 것 같아요.
The tiebreaker tussle continues with Frodan, Firebat, and Brian Kibler. Definition currently up 1-0, looking pretty good with his odd rogue, but we still have yet to see if his even warlock can escape, and we'll find out what happens. And of course, another question mark over our heads is how will the druids perform in this best of 5. So we do have also that odd rogue. I do have confidence that odd rogue can take a match this series, but one thing that is interesting is, you know, a lot of these aggressive decks, you know, Druid's supposed to be better against handling it, and yet it feels like, at least according to ladder stats, aggro does a pretty good job against some of these defensive Druid decks as well. So, Firebat, do you lean one way or the other? Or do you think it's actually an even matchup?
It depends a lot on how the Druid is built, right? The Druid has such great ability to be changed around, and it can have a lot of anti-control tools in the form of, more combo pieces, more of those, Togwaggle, Hakar, double naturalized sort of stuff, or it can have more defensive tools with the wild growths, with the Oaken summons and some of the builds and things of that nature.
Okay.
So it really depends on how the techs of the Druids are built, and I would say Definition's Druid is more favoring towards being better against control. Is it lineup in general? I would say targets control rather than being super anti-aggro. So it could be close. It could definitely be the match we see right now. The aggro could potentially sneak by against the Druid. I would not find that to be unreasonable.
Yeah, in the past, you would use Malygos Druid to try to stop Odd Rogue's momentum because you had so much life gain and you had, branching paths plus spreading plague to just stop them and even launch a counteroffensive if they weren't careful.
Right, yeah, but this isn't the Malygos Druid. This is the Hakar Druid. So this, instead of Malygos is decent versus the aggro because you have Malygos in your hand, you play it, you Moonfire something, all of a sudden, great, you've used it as removal, you've gained tempo from it. You can't really go King Togwaggle Moonfire something and gain tempo.
This is an interesting play from HCT here as he coins out the Flappy Bird. And Definition does have the ability to clear it off if he wants to fire off that Naturalize. And HCT specifically actually has a fairly slow hand if this Flappy Bird does not survive. If Definition is able to clear this off, HCT's next few turns are just Daggers and Argent Squire with a 5/5 and the 9 in his hand. So it is obviously a calculated risk because, well, there aren't that many removal spells you could possibly have here, and Definition not even using it. He's going to go ahead and say, okay, well, I want to use my mana more efficiently, and I will take the risk that Flappy Bird gets his wings going.
Yeah, I like taking the risk here from Definition. You can't give the aggro opponent a bunch of cards early and expect things to go super well. Usually you want to use Naturalize as a point to bring back tempo while developing something big like the Gadgets and Auctioneer. So it allows you to play a 6-mana 4/4 and not die. But he's going to need to pick up something because this board's getting a little bit out of control. To his fallback, though, he has the Wild Pyromancer and he's accumulating the spells to make that engine churn.
There it's Pounce, so that can just be a board clear if he wants it.
Yeah, I think you've survived one bullet of the Flappy Bird. Let's not go crazy.
Let us not tempt fate, my friend.
Yeah.
That bird's wings shall continue to flap.
Well, the moment that Flappy Bird, I can't remember his name.
Vicious Fledgling.
When Vicious Fledgling
It's
starts
just Flappy
getting,
Bird, man. Let's be honest.
gets the can't be targeted adapt, and that becomes really problematic for the Druid to deal with.
It's true. It is pretty good with the can't be targeted.
Or the Wind Fury and then that adapt.
Yeah.
So I think you gotta use the Wild Pyro. So he's gonna go for it, it looks like.
Okay, so this is the correct sequencing, so that way he keeps the Pyromancer alive on the board. It is a little painful, considering that you are using both of your 0-mana spells and you have Gadget and Auctioneer in hand. But like we saw in the previous game, survival is the name of the game. Also, unlike other Druid decks, Naturalize isn't as free to use as you'd like it to be. It is actually one of your proper win conditions. And there are other bigger fish to fry. Like, Baku, for example, just comes down and you have to deal with that. And I've seen Odd Rogues just win because you've used a lot of hard removal.
It is true that if you're at the Baku stage of the game, though, as the Hakar Druid, you're usually feeling all right.
True. I'm just saying that in some cases, when you've used Naturalize on smaller minions, I've come to regret it a lot of times.
No, it's certainly true. It's certainly true that if you can survive without it, and Definition did manage to emerge unscathed from the Flappy Bird, still at 27, didn't even have to get any armor with his branching paths.
Yeah, it worked out.
Scalebane is pretty scary though.
Yeah, it is very scary. That's one of those naturalized targets for sure. This is a minion that you lean on trying to get rid of the moment it gets played because it by itself generates additional attack power constantly every turn. So the longer it goes unchecked, the worse things get for you. And now he does not have that Wild Pyromancer to fall back on.
Yeah.
So we might actually have to see this Naturalize come out here.
Definition would have loved to have found Innervate here. If you could have played Gadget Zan and Innervate into Barkskin, or Biology Project into Barkskin and Naturalize, churned through his deck, got rid of that. But instead, he's in a bit of a rough spot because those, even if he does find a Wild Pyromancer, those are also just fairly high health minions. Ooh.
He's so good.
Spellstone! It's not enough, though.
Not enough. He can't get it all the way up, right? He doesn't have a minion out there to Barkskin. You can Barkspin your opponent's minion.
He could Barkskin the Tar Creeper and hit the Spellstone on the Cobalt Scalebane.
Right. That's kind of cool. You use a lot of your cheap spells for the gadgets and for next turn. So
Yeah, I think he's just going to go with the Naturalize here.
I don't know. I was close to not naturalizing that in my mind because next turn you got the Biology Project, you get the Mana Ram.
But next turn you have Gadgetzan into Biology Project, into Barkskin, into Spellstone.
Yeah.
Which feels a lot better.
Well, you might hit an Innervate or another Biology Project.
Well, that's assuming
That's
that
true.
Yueying didn't even buff it out of the range. Like, let's say he had a 1-mana minion plus Funkelmancer
Right.
this turn.
Right. That gets scary.
Then it's just, well, that's almost too much to come back from. And keep in mind that Definition's deck list for Hakar Druids, they usually top out at that Gadgetzan Auctioneer. There is that one copy of Spreading Plague, which is unusual to say the least, but sometimes it is very useful to have.
It's definitely a really good tech against a lot of the paladins running around. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty smart choice to bring. Overall, Definition's got a lot of cute little techs in most of his decks that seem to be just really hitting the mark for this tournament.
Yep, Yueying going for the most aggressive line possible, given his hand context.
I think we are on to the Auctioneer stage of the game for Definition here, though.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Another Biology Project.
Okay, so there's a couple things to consider here. Is that he's giving a lot of mana back to Yueying, who has a relatively heavy hand as well.
It's Baku time.
Might be double 5-drop at this point, too, depending on what he gets.
Wrath and 2 Spellstones.
Yeah.
You can actually Spellstone here.
You do kind of want to save one Spellstone for the
Hakar itself.
Hakar, but sometimes you don't get that luxury either.
Especially in a matchup like this. You are much more looking to play, just remove your stuff, force it to deal with this, because now there's a 4/7 Auctioneer on the board that Yueying needs to deal with. He can't just play Baku here. He needs to get rid of this, or else it's just going to draw even more cards for Definition next turn.
Right.
Yeah, this is kind of a nightmare from the Rogue's perspective. Not even having a Vile Spine here to clean this up means he's going to have to kill it in some other means, or he could try and go for the plan of ignore it, and maybe, you draw too many cards or something, but...
that is not a plan that will ever work. I mean,
it's like, but how often does killing it work, though, right? So it's like you're kind of battling two evils here.
It is a bad spot for Yueying for sure. He can remove it while building at least a decent board, but now Definition has 10 mana, Wild Pyromancer, Acolyte.
Yeah, holy smokes. He just keeps going, right?
Yeah, it's build your own Gadgetzan Auctioneer with the Wild Pyromancer, Barkskin, Acolyte combination.
Oh, and the Pounce too.
It just doesn't stop.
Yeah, in fact, Earthen Scales adds to this. It gets pretty gross pretty fast. And oh my gosh, a second Acolyte of Pain. Are you kidding me?
All right, well, let's just see Definition draw his deck, kill all the stuff.
Man, this looks like it hurts to be the Rogue player right now. Wow.
There's an Innervate, another Innervate. And now we're seeing why the Hakar Druid deck is so powerful, even in these matchups against aggressive decks. We're saying, oh, it's crazy this is 50-50, but you're just able to do so much with all of these 0 and 1 cost cards, either with the Auctioneer or with the Wild Pyromancer, that you just churn through your deck and find what you need. Definition has 5 cards left. Yueying has 17.
Yeah. He can even go for more. He had the opportunity to go for more, but he didn't want to overdraw. Part of the thing about this deck is you can very easily fatigue yourself very deep by accident. So in some ways, what Firebet said was correct in some scenarios. If your opponent has like a really high health Auctioneer and they have like 3 cards left, I've seen Hakar Druids accidentally kill themselves because they took way too much damage, and then you had like 15 on the board and they didn't account for the fatigue. So it has to be something that Definition is considering. So he did end up sacrificing 1 Acolyte a little bit earlier, but that's okay because he still needs to play the Hakar, and because he doesn't have that Spellstone available, he needs that Hakar to die in a natural way.
Not a natural way, not a naturalize.
He had to die in organic, fair wage, locally grown way.
locally sourced minion death.
Yes.
I mean, you can also just attack his opponent with a car, 3 times or whatever.
Free range Hakar.
Free range Soul Flare. It's really, it's the ethically sourced,
yes,
corrupted bloods.
Yes. Well, still a lot of damage on the board. But that's where Spreading Plague and Branching Paths can stall. I think now is a time that you feel like you can drop the Hakar, because you still have an opportunity to cycle through. The key is actually also... Oh,
he's gonna make a big board.
Right.
Say, all right, I'm just gonna play normal Druid.
Yeah, he's just going to beat him up with 10 mana Hakar. He's just going to play it as a 10-drop and
Because there's
And
no
9 to the
rush to
next.
combo here, right?
Right.
Ooh, that's kind of interesting.
Well, there is the possibility that if Hakar dies, he still just can King Togwaggle naturalize and then win the next
Right.
turn.
And that is one thing. Myra's is usually a card that you're like, all right, let's go. I'm gonna draw my deck and get burst. But if you're playing against a deck that just wants you to have no cards, it's like, okay, you just saved me from having to Togwaggle you. I just saved me 8 mana. I just get to play the Hakar and kill you if you cast that.
Yeah, this Moonfire is actually super clutch. In fact, so is this Rav. I didn't realize how good the removal resources were. And Innervate just using as a coin is still very effective in this spot. And now, if because Baku's like too strong, not only is Definition threatening to end the game next turn, but also he might just die from the natural attack from Hakar, like you were talking about, Gibbler.
Well, this is the Baku on the board. We were saying, when you play Baku, it's rarely going to be good. Now it's just providing a trade for the Hakar, the locally sourced, organically killed Hakar.
Now, there is one thing to consider, is that if you're holding 10 cards, the Corrupted Blood doesn't work, and
That's
Myra's
true.
Unstable Element will guarantee that you're holding 10 cards.
That is true.
So
That's very true.
He can get rid of the blood from his own deck that way.
Yes, he can. He can actually turn this into a fatigue scenario, but then the problem is, will he take too much damage off the naturalized King Togwaggle?
Yeah, he can't just Myra's here. And Myra's trade into Hakar means that you will know.
So what he does is he Blood Knights SI, and then Myra's Unstable Element, and then draw 10 cards, and then Hakar.
But he can't do that.
If
That's too many mana.
If he goes and like kills the Hakar
you're right,
right
it's
now
11
and
mana.
then
Then
plays
he's
it,
putting bloods in his deck.
well,
But
half
then
the
he
time,
gets destroyed.
half the
I
time
actually
he
don't-
draws it, right? Because
Right.
he draws 8
That's
cards
true.
first, and if it's like the 9th or later, he doesn't get it.
Right.
So it works less than half the time, but he could remove the bloods that way. But then the issue falls is maybe he's just too far behind on board to win from that position.
But here, if he doesn't play anything, he can trade and prevent. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. He's got the 10 cards.
Play the Fireflies.
He can play Fireflies, that's true.
So, but the Naturalize is going to start just dealing damage to him.
Naturally.
Right, that's the
naturally.
thing, yeah. He can just die to the fatigue.
But yeah, this is starting to get wonky.
No, actually, well, in this case, you can just... you don't need to even Togwaggle anymore.
Well, you can Togwaggle. You get 1 blood, they get 3. They get... I guess not 3, it's
2.
It's 2 in a
right.
card, yeah.
But you're also in a position where HCT can't play anything.
I'm out of cards.
And he's going to just die in
Right,
fatigue.
he's just going to die to fatigue.
Right.
This sort of thing can work if you have enough pressure. But now that Definition, he's got Togwaggle, he's got the Naturalize.
So he takes 6 damage next turn.
Yeah, if he plays any
And-
cards, he gets Togwaggled. But
Right.
you know your opponent has to Togwaggle you when you play cards, and Togwaggle costs mana. So if you
It
can
does.
set up a scenario where you're threatening lethal damage,
without playing a card.
well, no, you wait, and then you play the cards all at once to be threatening lethal damage, you know?
Whoa, why is he redaggering here instead of going like all in? His last 2 cards are the Corrupted Bloods.
So
I think
this is just lethal now
He
when
just
you
has 9
just...
cards, right?
Well, you just go Togwaggle, Naturalize, and it should kill your opponent. Because you swap decks
Right.
with them, and then you force them to draw 2 cards.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And
The
then
Corrupted Bloods are
Togwaggle
open
Naturalize
now.
ends the game right now.
So they draw
right?
2 Corrupted Bloods, and then that's 6 damage, putting 4 in, and then they draw again afterwards.
Well, he has 9
taking-
cards, we can't... Oh, no, you just keep drawing them.
You keep drawing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he would
yeah.
do 3, 6, and then it would put 4 in, so it'd be 4 times 3, so it'd be 12, so it'd be 18 plus the natural 2 ticks of fatigue.
Wait,
if you go Togwaggle Naturalize.
Yeah, so it's...
So it was this
So
is
he's
also
Naturalizing
lethal.
first. Sure, either way.
Either way,
yeah.
it should, because now he's going to draw the
This puts
Corrupted
him
Blood
right. This
naturally.
puts him into fatigue anyway. Now he just plays the.
Well, now he's alive at 3.
Really?
No, he draws 2 Corrupted Bloods.
Right,
Never mind.
yeah,
This is
he draws
exact
blood.
lethal.
Is he just showboating?
Yeah, he's
so he
just
has
fine.
exactly.
Wait, he gave
filled
him
up
the
his
map!
hand!
What is he doing? Now he doesn't draw any
No.
Corrupted Bloods.
Oh my God! Did Definition just?
Wait a
So-
second. Hold on. And then he can swap it back. He can swap the
He can
Corrupted
swap it back.
What just
What is-
happened?
All he had to do is switch first, naturalize, make him draw the Corrupted Bloods. That's the combo of the deck. It kills.
Well, but if he switches first, he still has a 10th card. It's the.
Oh, the map.
So either way,
Oh, yes,
either way.
yes,
no,
I'm
no,
mistaken.
no. So okay, yeah,
Yes,
that's the
okay.
thing. Because
The map.
he needs to Togwaggle him.
Okay.
Right.
Because he burned it naturally. This is.
That's why
us
he
all-
daggered as well
Right,
on the previous
right.
turn instead of going all in. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. I caster visioned on that so hard. I apologize.
No, that
It's
makes
tough up
sense.
here, guys.
Yeah. So
That's actually fairly brilliant from
Wow,
from
both
HCT.
players, yeah.
and we just have no idea what's going on.
Does
That was
mean
cool.
Definition loses?
I believe Definition does lose now.
Are
yeah,
you serious?
That was cool.
And it was. I mean, we were talking about using
5,
Myra's to
8,
block it.
10,
Yeah.
16.
He
Yeah,
just
he's
did it in a
dead.
super smart way.
Are you serious?
Wow.
That is unbelievable. This is one of the coolest ways I've seen a player win at a championship.
Yeah, that is a beautiful
From an
performance.
unwinnable spot to a
Clearly was winnable.
Yeah.
very winnable
Not by
spot.
us. By him.
Yeah.
Not by
Yeah,
us.
I would have messed that up for sure. Holy smoke. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about it. You have to get the Myras to block it, and then Definition tried to figure out a way to unblock it, but
That was amazing.
that was a beautiful setup. Going to 9 cards so they can't switch decks
I
and then have
wonder-
you draw the Cryptid Bloods.
Huh. I wonder if Definition needed to not swap. Because if
Okay.
Definition does not swap, right? If he just naturalizes.
Then he can't play any more of his cards.
And then, right, then Yuying would be unable to play any cards, and then you swap once.
He plays under the amount of cards, right?
If he plays any cards, you then swap, so that he's going to start drawing Corrupted Bloods and die.
But how much pressure was on the board already? There was he already got the fungal down, right? So there's actually quite a decent chunk of pressure.
The turn that he played the Myras, he just had SI.
Okay.
And that was the turn that he swapped.
I see.
right?
So he should have
So
been maybe more patient.
If he just naturalizes right away,
okay.
and ends up drawing Yuying deeper into fatigue.
Because the fatigue
Will-
was really close.
It was actually really close that he just dies of fatigue. So then, if he swaps, he will just kill him with Corrupted Bloods as soon as he draws a Corrupted Blood, right?
Right.
If he plays any card from his hand. But I guess his opponent could swap back. But no, he didn't have a swap card. Never mind. So I think that the way that Definition played that at the end may have been what gave Yuying a chance to win. I'd have to reconstruct
Right.
it and analyze everything. But I think that the way that he played it, he couldn't win. There's no way to win because your opponent never does a Corrupted Blood, right? You
Right.
just-
It did seem fishy how that kind of panned
So
out.
if you naturalize him, put him into fatigue, put the clock on him from fatigue, force him to play cards out to actually pressure you, then you have the Togwaggle left in your hand as the okay, I'm going to pull the trigger as soon as you play a card to try and
Right.
pressure me more, so you don't lose to the fatigue. That's when you have to do it, I think.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just not sure how the numbers line up for those
Neither am I.
clocks. Is the only
but
thing.
that's we've been
yeah.
saying so many times it's a card druid deck. It's very complex. There are so many permutations of situations that can come up, and the break points of damage from the Corrupted Bloods and the fatigue. And we saw that seemed to throw Definition that match, but Yuying navigated that incredibly well.
Yes, that was impressive.
I think that's my takeaway is that we can sit here and debate the lines of maybe the should or shouldn't haves, but Yuying picked himself out of what seemed to me like an unwinnable position. And I think that's probably the game of the tournament for me thus far.
That
TJ, if you're taking notes, that's what Talkstone's well-played moment is.
That guy is cool under pressure. That's for sure.
Dude, he didn't even bat an eye.
No, he didn't even move. His posture didn't change at all. That
That's
guy,
just a still photo that we took
right.
of him.
He's just cool as a cucumber, man. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
It
very
moves.
impressive.
Ah!
You can see Definition
Well-
looks a little more shooken up. He's moving his lips to the side and whatnot.
It's a moving picture, Kibler.
But, yeah.
Whoa. Are we in Harry Potter world?
Well, technically, you're a moving picture too, Kibler. We all are.
Mind equals blown.
All right, the Druid Mirror, though. So how does this one exactly work out? I'm not a super big Hikar Druid expert, but back in the day, between Togwaggle Druid and Malagos Druid, it was in the favor of the Malagos Druid because they kind of both reached fatigue, and then one had a giant burst combo and the other one didn't.
Well, but this is not Togwaggle, this is Hikar.
Right,
So,
they're a little similar, though. That's why
Yeah.
I'm just trying to reference it back.
So,
yeah,
so
but the Hikar burst combo is a lot bigger.
It's a lot
than
bigger,
the
right.
Malagos
It's a-
burst combo.
Sure.
It's like 900 or whatever.
Yeah, so if they both get to fatigue, then in that situation, the Hikar burst is going to be able to go faster.
So part of the problem historically with Malagos Druid against any defensive combo Druid is that winning through a Malagos burst combo is unlikely given the amount of armor gain that can happen. So you'd always have to find an alternative win condition. And that's when you started seeing really weird stuff like Azalina Soul Thief in the Malagos Druid. And then you had these weird scenarios where it was like you Azalina their hand and then you naturalize their and then you Azalina again because they were holding Azalina and so on and so forth. That doesn't really exist in this matchup, and so as a result, you have to fight with the resources you have, which I think leans towards the Hikar Druid because they legitimately have scaling burst, versus Malagos has a finite amount of damage.
And it's going to be quite small. He doesn't have like a faceless in there or anything that you see with the twig that do those tricks to get, 3 Malagoses on the field or something crazy. He only has the Phlebidinous Floop.
Yeah, so I give the edge slightly here to Malagos Druid, maybe a 55-45.
Wait, Malago's
Oh, sorry, the Hikaru.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like, wait a minute.
What are you talking about?
I set up the analysis and
These
it
are all
turned
the
out a completely
reasons.
different way.
These are all the reasons, but screw that. We're going to go the other way.
My job is to make you guys look really smart, and I'm doing a great job.
No, I
It's not a
agree.
zero-sum game, man. You could try and look smart. too.
Win-win-win, right?
But one of the key cards, or perhaps the key card for definition, though, is that auctioneer.
Right.
And so far, he does not have it. HCT has a lot of his key cards. He has the actual mana ramp. He is nourished for mana. Now he can just nourish for cards, or potentially howl to just dig deeper into his deck, find more tools to piece together his combo.
Or get that
could-
goose discounted
Yeah,
already.
he could just play the Dream Petal right now.
I like it. I think that gives you a lot of flexibility going forward for when maybe you can just sneak out a bunch of burst damage unexpectedly. And your opponent has to kill the 4/4, which is kind of nice. But it is weird because you don't really want to develop when your opponent has 6 mana in the coin, because that's their option to be able to go like gadgets and coin, remove your guy.
Yeah.
So that's a little spooky. So that's probably why he hesitated there. But still, even considering the risk, I think you kind of go for it. You hope the gadget's not there. That's one thing that gives you a real big edge against gadget decks, is when they don't draw the gadget, it's really good for you.
Yeah. Nah, well said. And Definition has all these cheap spells, but if Gadget stands at the bottom of his deck, it can sit into quite the issue. And of course, Malakos Druid is also a deck that can manipulate their hand size fairly well too. They have things like Ultimate Infestation.
It's kind of interesting because definition, he cannot choose the second draw here, right? He
can,
10 cards.
he
I
can't.
thought he
He
had
has
10.
to play
Okay.
a card.
I guess I miscounted slightly then. I thought he had 10 already.
Man, I think HCT's going to win this one. I think he's going to figure out this whole Hikaru combo, get 10 cards in his hand, and do something nifty to stop it.
No,
He did last
absolutely.
game.
I
Clearly
know.
he's got
He
it
did
figured out.
It's way easier. It's got to be way easier with UI to be able to do it with this deck.
That's the thing.
I think.
Yeah, he's playing a deck that sometimes needs to worry about having too many cards. It's pretty easy. It's going to be easier to get to 10.
So part of the problem with that is if you dig too far into fatigue yourself, your opponent can just play the mill plan instead of the Hikaru plan. And then of course, if Definition catches wind of that too, he will also avoid the Hikaru situation and just let you fatigue yourself.
He's got to keep the card counts relatively even. And
Yes.
then he also has to, while keeping the card counts relatively even, end up with 9 to 10 cards in his hand.
Exactly. He has to keep parity the
So
entire time.
it seems really difficult from the non-Hikaru Druid side to navigate this matchup.
It's tricky. It's not impossible. And HCT has already shown us that he can do it one time. So I want to see it another time.
So keep the card. We have 13 right now for Definition, and HCT's at 16. So he's doing pretty well at keeping up without going over. But he hasn't played any UIs yet, so he might have to slow down a little bit unless Definition speeds up as far as the card draw is concerned.
Right. And also his resource partitioning too. To many people who look at this say, yeah, you just cycle. Why not even throw in the Pyromancer to be more efficient and whatnot? But, part of the thing about Definition is that he needs to be able to partition his resources to deal with the individual threats.
Right.
What if Malakos just sticks on the board? And it's
You
have
need
to
a
deal with
naturalize for that, right?
Exactly.
It's going to be tough to wild Pyromancer down, but I would love to see him wild Pyromancer down to Malagos. That would be awesome.
It makes it easier. 'Cause everything, it's kind of like having spell damage.
Yeah, but still, 12 is a big number.
Agreed. Oh, man.
The first big threat coming down now. I could see him getting this one done without having to use a naturalize. So he's going to want to try and hold on to those naturalizes to make things as awkward as possible for HCT.
Exactly.
Because using those tools later on for burst damage or using them to overdraw important cards is super powerful. So if you can avoid using a naturalize, you're going to want to avoid using a naturalize.
Right. I mean, there's also the possibility that Definition climbs way far in the card draw to the point where he just plays a normal Mill Druid plan, naturalize twice, then King Togwaggle, and then they're just stuck with their deck for the rest of the game.
Okay.
And then they can't do anything, and they have a Malagos Moonfire, and that's it.
Right, that's actually, that could be done relatively soon to great effect, right?
Just needs an auction here.
Because, HCT hasn't played any naturalizes, so...
Right.
It's the story of the auctioneer deck's life. Just need an auctioneer. Just need an auctioneer.
But you would have to be really far in Definition shoes as far as ahead in card draw to get that plan.
Boom.
Oh, he wants... Dude, this is HCT recognizing that this is a bad matchup, and he needs to try and get greedy as much as possible. I mean, pretty much he only needed one more Moonfire to maximize his damage, right?
When I played with purple a lot. We play these kind of decks, and when you do a play like this, we call it casting Arcane Intellect against Druid, because it always gets naturalized when you draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
So if you have a bad hand and you need to draw, he's like, cast Arcane Intellect, and that's when you just slam the Lich King or slam the whatever bomb you have.
Well,
Because
there
you're
it
like,
is.
yep, here we go, drawing 2 cards, getting new things.
It's really expensive Arcane Intellect.
Well, when your hand's not doing anything, sometimes you just got to draw 2 cards, and
Oh,
sometimes that's the
gosh.
way you do it.
Speaking of not doing anything.
This did not. We need to draw 2 more cards, man.
So does Yang have any backup? Does he have, say, a Lich King or?
He does not have a Lich King. He's got a relatively anti-aggro list of Malygos Druid. Typically, you'd see those kind of Lich Kings and late-game stuff in there, but he just has the Alex and the Mali, and that's it, man. He's got an Innervate where the Lich King would normally kind of go
Okay.
in the Malygos Druid sort of list, so he's keeping it pretty low to the ground.
This feels like 2 priests battling it out. Just a bunch of cards that just don't
Well,
do anything against each other.
What I'm
Alright,
curious
your
is, Yang's best minion in his deck is actually the Ghoul off of Ultimate Infestation at this point.
Oh yeah.
Stat-wise, you're correct, yeah.
that is not something reliable whatsoever.
This
So-
1/3's gonna get it done.
So I think what he's going to try to do then is to go for that anti-corrupted blood setup. By the way, Auctioneer finds way.
There it is.
So things are going to get real wild real quick.
It's deal time.
And so how many cards does Definition want to draw?
He wants to draw
All of
everything except for 2 cards because he
Everything.
wants he doesn't want to take a single point of damage unnecessarily.
Right, and so the 2 cards stop that how? What's
So he
going on
wants to
with
stop 2 cards before he draws. That way he actually. Well, here's the thing: he doesn't have the way to kill Hakar right now, and he needs to save. Like, oh, interesting.
that? He's stopping all the way. He's got 6 cards left, so he's stopping quite prematurely. He's staying.
Right.
He's been quite consistently, 4 cards ahead, which would be the amount for like double naturalized. No, HCT doesn't have Tog. I don't know what I'm talking about. But it is interesting. Why do you think he stopped drawing at that exact point? Just because he doesn't have anything good to do?
Well,
Well,
I think
he had the biology project.
At this point, if he does biology, I guess he's only cycling through. You know, he's not exactly
Right.
increasing his hand size.
He is worried about the naturalize, but
Overdrawing key things.
he
Yeah.
still also needs to find the way to kill Hakar, so that's why he's keeping the coin. That makes sense.
Yeah. So he could cast the biology project this turn, but the biology
Right.
project also pairs well with the second auctioneer in his hand if this first one gets removed.
Also, one thing to pay attention to is the life totals as well. If Definition is in the situation where he needs to go for the Togwaggle Burst, but Yang does not have a big hand, then he gives the King's Ransom back, and he only can deal around 34 damage plus the Fatigue, which is about 3 to 6. So upwards to about 40 life is about a break point for Yang. And that's something he has to consider as well, because if Yang just like keeps tanking up, say he gets Malfurion, then that burst combo is no longer possible. Then Yang switches decks back with the King's Ransom, and Definition stuck with all the Corrupted Bloods he just gave to his opponent. So this is a dynamic that Yang is probably banking on, and we have seen Definition get a little bit unsure about some of these late game scenarios. And to be fair, Hakardra is a really hard deck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these late game scenarios are super complicated, especially, like, Hakar it's hard to play when you have your game plan and the other guy's not trying to screw it up. And then it becomes increasingly harder when you're playing against an opponent who's going to try and get to 10 cards, who's going to try and finagle your initial game plan and make things as awkward as possible for you. So
It's one of those memes.
Yeah.
My opponent's playing cards, baby rage.
Right.
Like,
People say a card druid's not interactive, but that's been proven wrong here already from the last game. It is interactive. HCT was able to interact with it and defeat the combo.
Draw cards, play a new Ruby on Unraveler.
The first UI enters the table.
It's a pretty impactful draw. In fact, I wonder if Ying's going to do something pretty fun, which is, I've only seen this happen one time, and it was by watching TJ play. But you actually Ultimate Infestation, snap your twig, Ultimate Infestation again.
The double UI.
It's very possible with this kind of setup.
He would draw too many cards.
He would draw too many cards, but if he times it at the same time that Definition gets his Hakar off anyways, it feels relatively the same.
He could, wait, can he mill it guaranteed then? With the double UI, he might be able to mill the blood from his own deck. Because this is the moment, right? This is where everything happens.
Yes.
yeah, he can UI. If he draws his
Snap
second
enemy,
UI,
which
he
is very
UIs the
likely.
Hakar.
And then he would, how many cards is he at right now? Waiting for them to file in, but
He's got 9 cards?
9 cards and then 2 in deck, so he would exactly get rid of, he would exactly go to 10 cards.
Exactly.
And then the blood would get added to the deck.
Right.
So he can effectively
Oh, that's so sick. So you
mill the blood right here.
yes,
100%.
you snap the twig, you hit the
But are you winning
yeah,
from
like,
that position?
Right, 'cause then you're 3
you
cards
mill the
deep
blood,
into
but you're
fatigue.
right. You're in fatigue.
You're-
very deep in fatigue.
Yeah, you go, 3 deep in fatigue against your opponent who's not even in fatigue yet, and you do have a board position advantage.
So what if you just skip all that and UI the face?
Just UI the face.
All right. I guess he just realizes he can't
Playing
do
a
that.
card here now.
Wait, he can still do it. He can has branching pass and no, he doesn't have enough cards anymore. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, because he's playing another card, so now he doesn't have enough cards to
Yeah,
get to
Well,
the.
does Definition doesn't have a way to kill his own Hakar right now, right?
Aside from
Oh,
Naturalize,
you're
right?
right.
So, but Naturalize wouldn't do it because that'd fill his hand up to 10 and then
Right.
not work out for him.
Wait, but now Yang actually has like the branching pass offensively.
Okay. So with no way to kill his own Hakar, he gets time now to just naturally draw these cards, so he's not having to put himself into fatigue. But if he expends a card here, he gets into that
Okay.
position again where he can once again draw the Corrupted Bloods.
But Yang's also at above that health threshold because only one Naturalize is around. So he could go on the offensive here and push damage, and then if Definition spends his entire turn sacrificing Hakar and then going for the burst, he will have a counter push.
Well, I think that the key is that the Definition's not going to be sacrificing his Hakar and go for the bush. He's going to try to win with this 9/5 at this point.
Right.
You know, this 9 attack minion.
That's fair.
If you play nothing, the 9 attack minion. But on board, like the 9 attack minion dies to the 5/4, right?
Yeah, and this Definition did use his ways to kill the Hakar earlier.
Yep, he uses spell stones.
Well, if you play Togwaggle right now, you can switch decks.
Right, but your opponent has 9 cards. You give them the ransom, they have 10.
Right, and then they burn the last card.
You can naturalize.
So I think Definition's in the position where he's looking to try to just win this on the board with the larger
can't.
minion. But will he win on the board if Yuying can never play another card?
No.
No, he won't.
He won't. Like,
The
Yang
board trades out to be approximately even, right? And then Yu
Right.
Ying's got the better hero power and the life total.
He just stalls at 9, and if the Corrupted Blood dies, then Yang burns the Corrupted Blood. And there's nothing Definition can do about it.
Well, but if he like Hakar dies, he burns the Corrupted Blood, then he swaps. I guess no, that's not.
And they both have fatigue, so they're
Right.
they're even on fatigue. I think Yang has done this almost perfectly, actually. So then,
he still has
Gonna
good
swap
influence,
here,
okay.
which does mean that he gets 1 extra
Oh,
card.
okay,
so he does
okay.
get a little bit deeper into fatigue
So-
and gets his just Togwaggle.
He
as-
gets
as
a 5/5 in play.
Right.
That's
right,
good.
he gets a 5/5
Yeah.
in play, and he's also accepting the fact that Yang is gonna have to play a card,
Right.
and then he can then go for the Hakar situation.
Right. So here, and Yuying, he swaps back,
He has to.
but he can swap back and can he swap back?
No, he doesn't want to
he
draw
doesn't
this
branch
card,
path.
right?
No, he needs to keep
No,
the
no, no,
branching. If he plays the branching pass to draw a card, he's back in the same boat.
Exactly. So this was Definition playing the Tempo King Togwaggle. You said you can't win if you just play the Tempo King Togwaggle. That's just not what they usually want to do. But that's actually what ends up happening.
Yeah, the 5/5 makes the board.
The tempo tog. I have never seen a tempo Togwaggle
But
just like.
It's brilliant though, because he gets
It's
the
great.
card draw out of the way ahead of time. Like
Right,
now, now Yang is in this situation where he can't play a card for the rest of the game.
Right, and this is the 9 attack minion. There's
Yes.
enough protecting it. There's a 9 attack minion and a 5 attack minion versus a 5 attack minion. Yes, Yuying has the superior hero power.
Right. And it's almost a game of chicken at this point. Who balks first? Which I'm pretty sure Yang's gonna have to at one point.
I think Definition. I mean, obviously you want to get the 9 to the face, but you definitely don't want to get the damage on the Hakar and let your opponent kill the Hakar at a point that they can burn the blood.
Right.
So. And in order to actually.
Well, wait.
I concede.
Yeah.
Wait,
I
what?
can see it. There's no way out,
I-
right?
Wait.
I don't see a
I
way
don't-
he can win, so I mean, it makes sense to
Oh,
concede.
okay.
But it would be cool to watch him play it out.
I wanted to see how it mathed out at the end.
Right.
You know, I just wanted to see the situation for science.
Yeah.
Right.
But he. Whew, yeah, I mean, I guess if he just literally doesn't play a card, he attacks, he kills the 1/5 with the Togwaggle, attacks for 9. He loses the Tom, then he gets extra attack for 14. He kills the Hakar. and then kills the Togwaggle, and yeah, I guess just the being behind and fatigued.
Yeah.
It seemed weird not to play it out though.
Right.
Like we're here, let's do it.
This is playing for potentially just a spot at the World Championship,
Right.
and you just concede a game that maybe your opponent.
They could mess up. Things can happen.
I mean, we were sitting there. It's like I don't know how this resolves, and maybe Definition's so far ahead of us. He doesn't want to use his mental energy on trying to win that game. But he'd already played a lot to get to that point.
Right.
Want to play it out from there?
Yeah, push the 9 to face and try and just protect it and keep going. I think they had a reasonable shot, but
I don't know what's happening anymore.
It's a really weird concede timing.
All I know is that we're going to have more Hearthstone right after this break, so don't go anywhere. The potential conclusion of the series when we come back.
大家好，我是来自 LF 的月影，我是来自中国。我的性格是比较的，可能算是内向，就是如果跟不熟的人的话，会说话比较少，但跟熟人就会比较放得开。我唱歌的话，这个的话就是当你一直输，你可以用唱歌来缓解你的就是那种负面情绪，然后让你接下来的比赛或者是天梯的那种排名的对战中可能会更好。这就算是我自己的爱好吧，就是比较喜欢。然后表演的话也应该不算，就是我可能直播的时候会唱一下歌，就是只是哼一哼，也不会说刻意去唱。
Would you be willing to sing just a small excerpt of a song?
就我比较内向，所以我在镜头前我可能放不开，所以我觉得不太好。对。Listen to the song here in my heart, a melody I stop but can't complete。唱歌一般都是在我直播中，就是我在天梯中上分的时候，如果打的就是有一段时间的连跪，然后会影响我之后的心态嘛，所以我会通过唱歌来缓解我的情绪，不然我会就是一直憋在心里。上一个让我特别开心的事嘛，我觉得只有炉石才能会让我特别开心。
일단 제가 생각하기에 등급전을 하면서 사람들이 가장 많이 할 것 같은 덱들을 이제 생각하고 그 다음에 그 덱들을 이제 어떻게 하면은 더 좋게 이길 수 있는 라인업이 있는지 생각하고 많이 카드 같은 것도 신경 써서 라인업을 짜는 것 같아요. 일단 이미 월드 챔피언십에 간 3명을 빼고 제가 외국에 있는 선수들은 많이 모르지만 제가 이제 등급전을 하고 저번 동계 플레이오프에서 이제 몇 명의 선수들을 만나봤을 때 저는 이제 이번에 아시아에서 올라온 다른 선수들도 이제 월드 챔피언십에 충분히 갈 실력이 있지 않나 그렇게 생각해요. 하스톤 게임이 재미가 있으니까 일단 먼저 하게 되는 거고 그 다음에 제가 생각했을 때 지금 메타에선 이 덱이 좋을 것 같다라고 생각이 되면은 이제 그 덱을 해서 이제 등급전에서 등수를 올려서 뭔가 테스트해보고 싶고 그런 게 있어서 이제 열심히 하게 되는 것 같아요.
Welcome back, everyone, to HCT Championship Sunday for the winter season. We're currently in the middle of a series between the Tiebreaker Tussle of Definition versus HCT. The winner gets a spot in the World Championship. Now, I do want to say one thing, guys, is that it's been 5 minutes since that game has concluded, and I am still left wanting and thoroughly unsatisfied with the conclusion of what happened.
We were sitting here during that little break and trying to figure out, wait, was it who conceded? What happened? Why did they concede?
For a second, I thought, like, because of the expression, it's almost as if HCT conceded, but then he looked very confident. Definition looked sad. I was like, wait, no, Definition conceded. And it's like, wait, but he was ahead on the board. But then we didn't know what HCT's 30th card was. And then we started thinking, like, oh, did we keep count of naturalize? Because HCT could also just naturalize and pressure Definition's fatigue damage. And so TLDR, we have no idea. So if somebody like Purple or Odemian or some of these like really good fatigue players, I mean, you're a good fatigue player.
It's not even,
tell us what to do in
it's
that
not even just a
situation.
fatigue situation. It's a Hakar situation. If there were still 2 naturalizes, he was 100% dead to a
Someone get Gia on
But-
the line, because Gia's played Hakar Druid out the wazoo, and she knows exactly what the math is behind that. So I'm sure she could tell us.
Either way, though, it shows a lot that Definition's maybe a little bit shaky. An early concede there, like, you just play those situations out. Your opponent can make a mistake.
Right.
Your opponent can, you know, anything can happen. There's no reason to concede before the game is over, especially in a state like that where it's as complicated as it is and as unusual as it is. You know, you're all the way here, you flew here from wherever, let's maybe play it the extra 3 turns.
The winner of this match gets a spot at the World Championship.
Right.
And what are you doing conceding when the game isn't over?
Yeah, I think the pressure's getting to Definition a little
Beats
bit.
Ike. That's what it is.
I think he's really starting to feel it. And,
I agree. I think that just watching the way he buried his face in his hands,
right.
I mean, that could also just be him regretting decisions leading up to that, right? I think, you know, one of the things that we were being told in our ear by one of our producers saying that, you know, maybe Definition didn't even have to play the Tempo Dog Walk. Maybe we could have just sat back. And it's true. Like, one of the hardest things sometimes in these late game scenarios is restraint, not figuring out the right play to do, but what to not do.
Yeah, I remember when I was first learning Hearthstone and everything was tempo driven, right? You just take the bag, play your biggest minion and go face. People meme about that all the time. But in reality, the hardest turns in Hearthstone ever are the turns where you just spend no mana, do nothing, and pass. Trying to figure out when that's correct, because it's so unintuitive and weird to just be like, all right, do nothing, you know? So it's a cool game. But HCT's got to be feeling pretty confident. The 2 games against Hakar Druid where he's supposed to be unfavored and then, you know, he does some sweet finagling and comes out on top of things.
Right.
He's got to be feeling super confident.
Yeah, I mean, those were 2 matchups which, in my opinion, should have gone the other way.
Yeah.
If anything, Definition already won 3-0 in my mind.
I have been super impressed by HCT's ability to maneuver in a lot of these very complicated situations. He has played fantastic throughout this entire event.
And just finding the out when you're down, right? He's already like he's in losing positions, and then he's, instead of, you know, conceding or tunnel visioning, he does the opposite, and he figures out the one way, the miracle road to victory, and it's awesome to see that kind of play. That's my favorite moment.
Well, that was something Bunny Hopper said earlier in the weekend. You know, it was like, what were you thinking? You know, how do you react to these kind of crazy situations that haven't come up before? And it's like, well, that's what's so great about Hearthstone, is that there are these situations that come up and you have to think about them on the fly. It's not like I play this on this turn, then I play this on this turn. You find the situations that you've never been in before, and that is really what is the showcase of a really strong Hearthstone player.
And so far in this game, HCT just putting forth as much pressure as he possibly can, and Definition waiting to do that explosive clear with his gadgets and Auctioneer, and we're nearing the time where
It's very explosive.
it seems like this is the time. He's still at 30 health, you know. Control Priest doesn't put forth the most amount of pressure, so you have a lot of time to juice up this gadgets and Auctioneers. That's why he didn't do it last turn with the Innervate. Just, you know, showing that he has a lot of patience here.
Yeah, he's got a lot of 0-cost cards. And
Yeah.
Yeah, he can utilize his Earthen Scales if he wants, because again, the Spellstones are pretty useful to hold on to. I think you guys are starting to see like how crucial it is sometimes to get that Hakar that shuffled into the deck. And also, one thing that is important to note too is that you don't want to wait too long. Part of the problem is that Definition has been getting his Hakar setups, but it's like by the time both players are very close to the end of their decks,
Right.
if you set up early in the mid game, they can't predict when they're going to draw the Corrupted Blood, so they're going to work off that as if they're not going to, and that's when oftentimes Hakar Druid's at its best.
As well, the other matchups, HCT was able to fill his hand. He was able to keep the fatigue counts close. He was able to draw his whole deck alongside the Hakar Druid. I'd be impressed if he figures out a way to draw his whole deck with Priest, but, you know, maybe he seances a Gadgetson and gets a little wacky.
Yeah, this is not a good
love
matchup.
it.
For
I
the
love it.
Priest. Oh, but that is clever. Yeah, that is really clever.
I love it, dude. Oh, man. He's going to try and keep up with fatigue.
Dude, he is crafty.
He's got to get like a Shadow Visions loop or something going on, but man, he's finding the ways.
Gadgesan Shadow Visions into Shadow Visions.
just gonna fill my hand no matter what deck I'm playing. I mean, he was playing Odd Rogue, and he's like, all right, 10 cards, got Myra's.
Sure. I mean, I don't see why not. Fortunately, he does not have much to go off of, so if he just plays Gas Hand, he'll die.
He's off the pressure plan already. We can see there, you know, stops playing minions. He's starting to switch gears and go towards this 10-card thing.
Yeah. Except Definition is off to a very fast start here comparatively.
Right.
Look at the right hand of the screen again, 7-19. And, you know, last time, you know, we had that come up. It was against the Odd Rogue deck. Had just drawn so many more cards, but then HCT was able to just draw the rest of his deck. Not quite the same possibility with this Priest deck.
Right. This Biology Project is actually something that HCT's happy to see, because then he has more mana to utilize with the Gadsden Auctioneer.
Just Auctioneer, Mind Blast, Mind Blast. Let's go.
So yeah, whenever Definition finds the Togwaggle, he's going to be able to fill HCT's hand with Naturalize and then play Togwaggle swapping decks, and then HCT will just be in Fatigue.
Another option is just to scream cards back into the
Yeah,
deck.
he's got to slow things down. He has to equalize the Fatigue count. In order to defeat the Tog, the amount of cards in each player's deck needs to be relatively similar, or in such a place where if you get Naturalized to fill your hand, then that'll make it kind of close. Otherwise, you're just going to get completely destroyed in Fatigue. But it's looking pretty tricky to do so. Northshire Cleric is a powerful draw engine, but, you know, 12 cards is a lot for that one to draw. But you can put it in their deck.
Yeah, HCT threw that Shadow Visions out pretty fast. And I did think, you know, I was kind of going with Kibler's line of, like, what if you just use that to fill up your hand?
Well, if you fill up your hand and the Fatigue counts aren't equalized, they play Togwaggle with your full hand.
They can
They
just
just mill.
Togwaggle.
And
They
then-
don't need to Hikari you.
Right, and then they have 17 cards and you have 5, and it's like, good luck.
And this is much more of a matchup where Definition, you know, he's not under pressure. He's at 60,
Yeah.
and there's no like Malagos coming down to force him to use his Naturalizes. He's really just going to have all the time in the world that he needs to set up the Hikar kill and then explode HCT with those Naturalizes.
Right. HCT very astutely knows that if he draws any more cards, he's in danger of fatiguing himself, because he needs to Hikar, Innervate, and Spellstone, which is an extra 2 cards, which effectively puts him at 1 card remaining in the deck. So if he just continues to go off with like Biology Project and gets careless, it takes a little bit too much fatigue damage. It's a small detail, which I don't know will have impact at all in this game, but every little edge matters.
And this gadget just keeps going back in the deck, back in the field, back in the deck.
He's a traveling salesman. He's like, I got the best deals anywhere. Hand over here. Hand over here.
And over here. He's
Like
coming
a little,
back.
like Todd Packer. 62.
All right, there's no more screams left though, so I think this is it for Gadgetson. He's done his traveling.
Yeah.
He's back home to his goblin wife.
So then, okay, I'm having a hard time still mapping this out for HCT. He is so far behind the card count.
Yeah, he just needs to hurry up and draw 10 cards really quickly.
Well, he had that chance with
Did
the
he?
Shadow Visions.
He
He
theoretically
could have drawn like 2.
Well, he could have gotten Powered Shield.
He could have
Okay.
like auctioneered for Shadow Visions
Which he
into
did
Shadow
get.
Visions.
Auctioneers,
like
Shadow Visions, Power Word Shield. Here goes the Mind Blast.
Boom. Hey, this is what I was joking about not that long
Oh,
ago.
he's got
Hey,
the shield.
There's the powered
The
shield.
second
all right.
shield could be a lifesaver here. Not quite. He can take that. He's got the Cabal plus Twilight Acolyte combo to potentially steal his opponent's Gadgetson or something.
Oh, I like that. No spell though, unfortunately, but
Right. Still has the other shield in the deck.
maybe just steal.
Wait, what? What are you doing?
If he naturalizes that, it's getting a little closer, but it's
Why-
still not even close to
But
equalize.
why
right?
are you?
He's gonna he wants to draw his own Tog and play it this turn.
Yeah.
So he can guarantee draw his own Tog and play it this turn, and then
But-
that should be the game
Yes.
because the
that-
map gets milled because his hand is full. So then all of a sudden,
okay,
yeah,
okay. You're right.
HCT will have 0 cards, and Definition will have 10 cards, and then the inevitable fatigue
Yeah, I
scenario.
totally missed the fact that he was going to end up with the 10 cards there. I was just tunneled on like the Hikar, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're gonna explode him.
So
All right,
yeah,
there we go.
And
Yeah.
then this is the game when he plays Tog.
Yep.
GG.
No King's Ransom for you. 0 card deck.
yeah.
Enjoy.
It's such a weird deck to play against because you have to keep your hand full to beat the Corrupted Bloods, and then you have to keep your hand empty to beat
Right.
the Tog.
Right, and then you have to be deep enough in your deck for neither of them to matter.
Right. So,
But you also have to not be too far behind on the board.
yeah, it's so weird. You try and be exactly equal with your opponent the whole game, then you just win at the end. But it's hard to be equal in life total, board control, and deck size.
Yeah, and Ying trying to find a way out of this.
So
He's got to deal 60 with these cards before he dies to fatigue.
Yeah, it seems impossible.
it doesn't seem likely at all. I'm trying to think if there's some Cabal, Shadow Priest, Twilight Acolyte play that can help swing that, but things like the Auctioneer, you actually want your opponent to sometimes keep it to accelerate their fatigue, but it doesn't really matter at this point.
Yeah, I appreciated the effort. You can tell he understood the matchup as he was trying to salvage ways to figure out how to draw as fast as a card druid with Control Priest, but it just can't be done.
And now look at definition. He's got his face in his hand, sigh of relief as he manages to get that card druid through after struggling for 2 straight games. And we're going to game 5.
The damage has been done, though. Control Priest against Even Warlock is a fantastic matchup for the Priest.
It is. Oh,
and that's something that we were alluding to before. Can Even Warlock get as many chances as possible? Well, you know, he won Even Warlock to play against Malagos Druid. Let's say he won that game, then he would have a favorable matchup going into game 5 on the other end.
Right.
So these are the small details that you might think, you know what, have to win with each deck anyways, just toss it out there. But don't be so careless. There's definitely a lot of edge to be gained based on how those Druid matchups went. And now we're stuck with this Even Warlock going up against Control Priest. And with that, we'll take our final break of the series. When we come back... Oh, did you say no break? I apologize. Okay, all I heard was break in my ear. So,
just kidding. The tension remains.
The tension remains. We sit here in awkward silence for 3 seconds.
Now, I actually don't think this matchup's as bad as people say for the Even Warlock. It seems like on paper it would be impossible to win as the Even Warlock, because if you look at the Priest's arsenal, they have the Twilight Acolyte to deal with your Drakes and Giants, and then they have absurd amount of burst damage when you tap yourself down to that 15 life total area. And then they just have Anduin, which they're able to develop a Death Knight. Oftentimes the battle cry clears your entire board. But even though there's all those negatives going for the Even Warlock, I feel like it's just such a resilient deck that it has its ability to gain edges all over the place with just the power level of the stuff that it's doing.
It's true. And in the end, it's still not an unwinnable matchup by any means. It's just an unfavorable one.
Yeah.
Ying recognizing that he wants to get on the aggression here, especially now that he picked up that Divine Hymn to go with the Powered Shield. He can get some card draw going as well.
Yeah, so even if this board dies, Ying can draw a lot of cards, which is important. He needs to get that Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Yep, Powered Shield into Divine Hymn here draws 3 since
kills the Doomsayer.
Yeah.
So that's insane. You're able to shut down this, draw 2 cards, and keep your board.
You have to give up the coin, right?
Actually, only has 2. Sorry.
I would
was thinking
gladly give up the coin to preserve this board. I would give up 2 coins if I had them. That's one of the key cards in the matchup.
That is super important.
Having that earlier is way better. So yeah, he's got kind of everything. He's got the Alex, he's got the Twilight Acolyte, he's got the Anduin. He's missing some of the mid-part stuff, but you know, he's drawing 3 cards, so it'll probably start coming together.
Definition has the Hellfire to clear this off and stop Ying from drawing any more cards, but he would have loved to just had that Doomsayer into Giant that last turn. Mind Blast number 1.
Yeah, and also Ying has the answer to the Giant too.
Right.
In the form of Shadow Reaper Anduin, and also even a Twilight Acolyte just to stall a little bit.
Yeah.
Tap Giant.
Well, definitely get the counter answer to the answer.
Right.
The Spellbreaker to make it come back to life.
It prevents him from playing like the better turn.
Second Mind Blast already.
The game might just be over here all of a sudden.
You hit.
You go face because you're really close to killing him.
Okay. I'm a little worried just because 15 is the scary point.
Well, so like, what are you worried about? Hooked Reaver comes down, then, okay, trade your 8/4 into it. And Cabal Shadow Priest the Giant. Like, Hooked Reaver is of no concern.
Okay, fair enough.
You just simply don't have the mana to do Hooked Reaver and respond to the current board state.
Right, yeah, the fact that Definition is unable to both answer the 8/4 and develop, and if he does, say he silences the 8/4, he's not silencing his Giant, and you steal it next turn with a Cabal Shadow Priest.
Yeah, it's looking like, in my mind, he's got to silence the Giant and trade it in.
Yeah.
And gosh, does that feel not good. But there's
You can
not a lot
spell
of
stone as well.
Well, then you're worried about
But
them
then-
caballing
Right,
the
then you're getting
Giant.
your 2/8 cabal.
That's fair.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't see any real other acceptable play by much. You can just say, you know what, we're in a bad spot. If he cabals, we're done for. Just lean into it, pretend
Yep.
that's not there, and hope for the best. But when it's a 2 of in the deck, it's a lot harder to take that line.
Right.
But that's a risk he's evaluating in his mind right now.
There's also the option of potentially playing the Amethyst Spellstone and, say, a Vulgar Homunculus and attacking the Duskbreaker,
Okay.
so that you have 2 potential Cabal targets, and you're sort of dividing. If your opponent takes 1, well, at least you've gotten a little damage.
Sure.
You can trade off the other one into the other one.
That makes
Maybe
sense.
that
It's like
sets up
a
a-
2/4 and a 2/5.
Sets up a Defile maybe on
Yeah,
the
and that's-
back end of it.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's what he goes for.
I like it, I like it. And then, so now the Cabal comes down, and then you can do some trades, clear the board with the Defile, and then develop the Hooked Reaver behind the Defile. That's looking like a cute little sequence.
Well, he did gain some life, so Hook Reaver is no longer 7/7 at least.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. That's a downside, huh? But you can get the Giant with the Defile. So now he's evaluating if he wants to even Cabal, and yet still think you do.
Yeah, I think it's his best tempo play, and plus he has those 2 Mind Blasts, so the closer he gets to that threshold, he'll be good to go. I mean, heck, he can even just go for the Shadow Reaper Anduin on
Well,
curve
he's
and then
gotta
just push for lethal.
Yeah, he's got a trade here, right? He's thinking about this Defile.
Yeah.
That has to be on the forefront of his mind. I think, especially in this position as the Priest, it can be really tempting to go face. You got 2 Mind Blasts and whatnot. But, yeah, I love this. You got to secure the board down first. You can't get too starry-eyed looking at that damage. The board's way more important.
Yeah, we've actually seen players get a little reckless with that too, just playing straight into that AoE clear.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
This does put Definition in a pretty bad spot, too. Unable to really advance his own game plan here. He's only got 7, so no possibility of Giant plus an additional 4-drop. And Ying, as we've mentioned, has those tools. He has the Anduin, he has the Mind Blast, he even has an Acolyte to answer a Giant or a Drake that comes down this turn.
Yeah. He has a little bit of a break for 1 turn, kind of, because the turn 7 from Control Priest is quite weak, unless they have exactly their 1-of Crowd Roaster, really. So he doesn't have to worry just yet, but turn 8 is the spooky one.
Yeah, and he is, at this point at least, developing non-5 attack minions into the potential for Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Seems smart.
Right. I mean, he has that ability still to undo the attack debuff at any given point if he needs to trade up into something big like that Primordial Drake or an Alex Draza.
Yeah, he can awaken the sleeping giant.
Ooh, I like it. Well played.
He might be able to stabilize this, man. He might be able to do it.
Right.
It's gonna be tough. The Mind Blast plus the Shadow Reaper Anduin, if after both of those converge, it's gonna be 16 points of burst on turn 10. So he's got to be weary of that life total.
All right, there's got to be a Defile here. I mean, you look at Dread Infernal and Defile, there's got to be something.
Well, you don't want Dread Infernal to be the only minion left on the board, though.
That's fair.
Because
of Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Right. That gets a little scary. And then there's always the point where you evaluate, hey, all of my plays play into Shadow Reaper Anduin, or they're terrible plays, so we have to do it and just hope. But he's going to try and find a way that doesn't.
I don't know if there is.
There is a Defile. If he attacks the Sun Fury into the 2/4, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Does kill all of his own minions.
Right.
So he can play that and possibly play Shroom Brewer Plated Beetle if he wants to avoid getting Anduin.
At that point, though, maybe you're just like, the Giant's so much bigger, though.
Right.
If I'm going to win this game at all, I kind of got to start clocking him a little. But, I mean, it's only 2 power worse, so I like it. I like your line.
Oh, not going to go for the Defile, though. Or...
It just pushes 2 more
it's-
damage.
Okay, yeah,
pushes
he's
2
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never mind. There's still everything there. And he's going to go for the Dread Infernal.
I'm not sure about the Dread Infernal. The upside is it does get into the graveyard as well for your follow-up Gul'dan if you top deck it. But
Well, I thought that he wanted to tap for the Hooked Reaver and Shroom Brewer next turn.
that's true as well. It also opens up that tap, which is really good. So yeah, there's a lot of upside to it.
Ooh.
A second Shroom. Although he did pick up the Lich King as well. Those are both pretty appetizing.
So there's only 14 burst from HCT while on 9 mana with the 2 Mind Blasts. But as soon as he gets that 10th mana crystal unlocked, he's able to squeeze in another Anduin ping. So he starts getting 16 burst. So Definition's got to navigate this pretty carefully.
I mean, he does have a pretty sick turn. If he life taps, he can play Hook the Reaver and the Mountain Giant.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's 15 damage. You put your opponent on a 3-turn clock.
You force your opponent to scream pretty much every single time.
Right. But then you go down to 13, and then you have to Shroomber, and you can't Lich King.
Yeah, you see, so that's kind of a bummer,
I wonder
right?
if you just want a Lich King.
I like the if the Lich King gets met by a scream, then you do that play afterwards, and it's fantastic, right?
Wait, this also makes sense too because
more pressure,
it's more pressure than just a Lich King, but it also if your opponent screams, they shuffle another heal into their deck, so they might have another out to stay alive.
Using healing before Alex is always kind of spooky. This way did allow him to have something in play to be able to trade into the Alex.
Right.
Yeah, that's also true. That's also true.
I think Alex was on the forefront of his mind when he was making this play, because it seems to be one of the better lines he could have taken against the Alex Straza.
Well, there is Psychic Scream #1 and #2 available for HCT.
Right. And he only needs to get him down to 16 life or less.
So there's only, what, for healing left? There's the Plated Beetle, 1 Spellstone, and then Blood Reaver Gul'dan. So can HCT set up a lethal that is, not able to be stopped?
I mean, there's also, the fact that Definition, he has 11, 15 in play. HCT can just fire this off.
He's just going for it.
Yeah, because the board's not representing lethal, so he's going to try and set up a situation where if you play Gul'dan, you are dead.
Yeah, it has to be Gul'dan or Spellstone.
So he's able to do 2 pings next. Or he can do. Yeah, he can only do 2 pings next turn right now.
Oh, he has to tap or kill his own Plated Beetle, but he can't.
Goes to 1.
That's it.
Taps, and that is it. HCT defeats Definition and will move on to the World Championship. Definition will face Ike in the bottom half of our bracket.
Congratulations to HCT, who is going to the World Championship after defeating Definition in an intense 3-2 score series. Firebat, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, big ups to HCT there. He played exceptionally well. I was very impressed at how he navigated that Hakar Druid. Once again, congratulations to him. Going to the World Championship.
Yeah, I was really impressed how he navigated, and it felt like, at least in this head-to-head, that the better player won for today. And I feel like HCT can pat himself on the back. He went through another grueling group. Every day we've had players play 1 match, and maybe 2 on the elimination day. HCT had to go through all of them. And so he will be advancing and playing in Taiwan later this year for the Year of the Ravens World Championship. But we do have one more tiebreaker as well, Definition versus Ike. And I think if you're an Ike fan, and if you believe in the prediction and the Killer Blessing, you're sweating a little bit, to say the least.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. Ike said in his group that Definition was exactly who he did not want to face. Well, he lost to in the group, and now he's got to face him once again to advance to the World Championship.
Good news is that you only have to beat him once,
It's true.
And then you'll be able to go through. But the moment does belong to HCT, so let's go ahead and head over for a couple of words on his victory.
Thanks very much, guys, and once again, a big congratulations to HCT for qualifying for the Hearthstone World Championship, and had to win 2 matches in a row to get there. How are you feeling this morning, knowing that your day was probably going to be pretty long, having to win multiple matches to qualify for the World Championship?
首先非常恭喜你能够赢得自己最后一张通往 HCT 世界总决赛的门票。那TJ 想问一下，就是今天早晨在比赛前，你是否做好了心理准备来迎接今天可能多达3场的加赛？
我已经准备好了，就是对手的卡组我也仔细的研究过，所以我觉得我还是有点优势的。
Before the matchup today, I've done I've done all my preparation very well, and I've studied all my opponents' lineup, and I think my lineup is pretty favorable against theirs.
Well, you did have one tough matchup in this series, at least, which was the Malagos Druid versus the Hakar Druid. It seemed like you knew what to do in those types of matchups, but what was your mindset going in? Did you have a specific win condition in mind with that matchup?
就是你刚刚那盘蓝龙 蓝龙德和哈卡德的对局当中，就是其实在大家认为应该是比较劣势的，然后但是你成功的就是战胜了对手，然后你当时你觉得自己的就是蓝龙德的取胜关键是什么呢？
这个蓝龙的取胜关键就是把手牌卡9张，手里存好平衡，起手留平衡，然后注意他的哈卡下的时机，就是想办法把他的血爆掉，或者是用自己的双平衡把他给斩杀。
I think I just I wanted to keep naturalizing my hand, and also I'll try to use play UI to keep my hand full. That's my winning condition.
Yeah, and it worked well with the Rogue also being able to fill your hand with Myra. So seemed like you had a lot of practice with that deck. But final question. You're going to the World Championship. You'll also be joining your new teammate, HCT, at the World Championship. Do you feel a sense of pride now that you'll be going and also be joined by a teammate?
是这样，就是在下个月的世界总决赛，你会和你的队友小 T 一起成功会师。那你现在心情怎么样？
我现在心情很开心。
I'm really excited to have my teammate going into World Championship with me.
Awesome. Well, once again, congratulations, and we'll see you again in a few months for the World Championship. Back to the guys at the desk.
All right, 15 out of 16 spots are booked so far for the World Championships happening in Taiwan later this year. Let's get some final thoughts and then preview the next match as we're going to give Definition a little bit of a brief break. Firebet, anything to wrap up that series that you watched?
I was just super impressed at HCT's performance. His ability to navigate against the Druid, the Hakar Druid specifically, was super impressive. You can tell this is a guy that did his homework, he did his research, and he knew how to play all of these matchups really well. And that was just really exciting to watch him kind of out-navigate, I would say, Definition's, first stage game plan and make him look a little silly.
It definitely had some moments where we had to at least even question what was going on through Definition's head with that early concede, for example. Kibler?
Yeah, I want to echo that. HCT looked incredibly impressive in those games, and we mentioned this a number of times that navigating those really unfamiliar board states is one of the things that really is the hallmark of a great Hearthstone player, and he did it exceptionally well.
All right, and with that, we are one step closer to finding out who are going to be our field of 16 and who is going to be the winter champion. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to preview Ike from the USA going up against Definition from South Korea. 2 players enter, only one can move on.